Welcome into the Skraby Show, the second ever Skraby Show here on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks so much for listening. I already see some of the chat is getting going. Thank you for being there. If you want to watch the show, you can go to YouTube 97 or in a search 97.3 The Fan. We'll be able to find the YouTube show. Now, every show on the station now is broadcasting live. So if you want to see any of our shows and what we look like and how crazy we get, just go to YouTube. Type in 97.3 The Fan, and you can just move from one broadcast to the other all day long. And I will, if I'm here, we'll close out the day for you and help you to get home from work if you are in the car. And we have some new news to talk about. You heard Tony there before we got done with Gwen and Chris, but he was saying that I'm saving news. And I'm not saving news. The only reason that this is new news is because it's come out recently, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. But I just wanted to stop real quick and tell everybody that I really appreciate all of the feedback yesterday. It's actually somewhat overwhelming because I know that there are great listeners out there, and I know that I've met a lot of great people, but I did not expect all of the feedback that I got and all of the congratulations that I got. So I just wanted to say before we get into anything, thank you for the last since Friday, because really it has showed me a lot about all of you. And that, that's something that I really do appreciate because it gives me the confidence, it gives me the strength, it gives me what it takes to go forward. So thanks everyone for reaching out and saying the nice things that you said about me. But you just heard Michael King on the air with Gwen and Chris, or at least me and Tony. And if you want to listen to that full interview, you can go online at 973thefansd.com and you can listen to the full interview once again over there. But Michael King, I just gotta say about that guy real quick. He seems awesome, I gotta say. And when we reached out to get him on the show, it was actually before Christmas break, and it was we really didn't expect for it to happen or anything like that. But they immediately got back to us and they said, "Hey, he's going to join you in the new year," and so it happened. But I really liked what I heard from Michael King today. I really appreciated his perspective on things. And I think he's going to love San Diego more than sticky New York during the summer. Can you imagine? Can you imagine going from a place? I think Juan Soto said it when he came here. Hey, it's 75 every day and it's not humid. I love this. I can't imagine playing baseball every single day in the summer and having it just be 95 degrees with 100% humidity. Feels like 110. It's just ridiculous. But Michael King sounds like he's ready to go. And I'm very excited for what he is going to bring to the Padres. And I'm very excited for everybody else. He was very complimentary of everyone that came over in the trade. So looking forward to that. All right. I'm seeing it on the chat. Get to the new news. Well, the new news is this. Alden Gonzalez, we had him on the show yesterday. He tweeted out just maybe 40 minutes ago. The LA County District Attorney's Office has determined that it will not file felony charges against former Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. The case will move to the city attorney's office for misdemeanor filing considerations. So we're going to start our top three stories of the day. And this makes the top story of the day, not because it's the newest news, but because it's huge news. It really is. The police or the district attorney's office putting this down to a misdemeanor filing does change a little bit about the status of Julio Urias. But at the same time, I'm not going to go into now that it's been downgraded to a misdemeanor, should the Padres get him? Because I know that he's probably going to command too much money anyway. I don't really even know what his market value is anymore with everything that's been going on. But here's why I say no one should come in and or the Padres should not sign him to the team. Because he is still going to most likely face a suspension. And Tony and I were talking about it before he left studio, and we were saying, like, Trevor Bauer was never charged with anything. And so he was still suspended for a long time. There's been plenty of other guys that have been suspended. Marcell Ozuna has been suspended, even though he wasn't charged. I don't believe he was charged. I think they took the charges away. But so the pattern for Major League Baseball and what they do when something like this happens, just because it went to a misdemeanor doesn't mean that he's going to be back in baseball as soon as this March or April, whenever, opening day is. I guess in Korea, because if he signed with the Dodgers anyway. But I don't believe that he's going to be pitching for a while in Major League Baseball. So I don't think that the Padres should even waste any of their time on it. Maybe kick the tires on it. But really, I don't think he fits with this team. I don't think he fits with the city. And he is a good pitcher. But how much are you willing to put up with? I mean, if he has done this twice now, or at least been, looked into twice for these allegations, I feel like there's too much smoke there. And I always say, when there's smoke, there's fire. And obviously, I don't know everything that happened with Julio Urias and the situation, but apparently the case was, I don't want to say weak, not weak, but the case was enough for the city attorney's office to change it from a felony to a misdemeanor. So baseball is probably still going to suspend him, but this is pretty interesting because it's, this is stemming off of Wander Franco, and he was actually yesterday, he was released from jail. He's required to appear before authorities every 30 days while their investigation into his alleged relationship with a 14-year-old girl continues. And I'm even seeing news today that he may not even be allowed in the United States because of the accusations levied against him. So there's two players right there that are probably not going to be playing Major League Baseball anytime soon. And Julio Urias, I don't know what his future is, but he might have to do the Trevor Bauer thing. He might have to go over to Japan, pitch there, prove that he can pitch still, and, he can work his way back to Major League Baseball. But I don't think that a team is willing to put out the olive branch right now until this is all cleared up and all gone, because why sign a guy that's going to be suspended? And if you're going to sign someone like Julio Urias, who actually, I hate to say that Trevor Bauer wasn't charged with anything, but I hate to say what he did was less bad than what Julio Urias did. But if you're looking at it, Julio Urias has much more factual accusations, because there was a lot that came out through the Trevor Bauer thing. So I think that the Padres are good. I think the Padres are not going to go after Julio Urias, and I think that we could just move on with our lives after that. But I'm seeing on the chat that no, don't kick the tires. Not worth the bad energy. Matt says on the chat, we'd have a pretty awesome rotation if they sign Luis Urias, but no, he says no. We also have James says, I would be down with Bauer instantly. Guaranteed he would love to smoke the Doyers. I think that that's a good point about Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer seems like he does form his, he gets his motivation from what other people say about him, what other people do. And so I think that Trevor Bauer would like to stick it to the Dodgers for sure. So that's the first news story of the day. The second news story of the day is going to be someone that came off the board in Major League Baseball, Shota Imanaga. Ooh, let me try that one again. Shota Imanaga. There we go. Shota Imanaga signs with the Cubs. The Padres weren't really in on him, but another big-time Japanese pitcher heading to Major League Baseball. I really do think this is starting to become the trend in baseball. Maybe not so much of a trend that's going to go through all of baseball, but I can't remember this many foreign players coming to, or at least players from the MPB and KBO coming over to Major League Baseball in one season, in one off season. I think these guys are seeing that Major League teams are willing to spend a lot of money on some of these players. And so they're like, hey, why not? Why not try and get a spot or get a good contract with the Major League team? Why not do that? Because I can, and now is the time to strike. So I think this is really what teams are going to try to do to kind of get away from the spending that is being done right now, like pitching especially. We see a lot of pitchers come over from these leagues, but pitching especially is where teams are finding value. Not when you get Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I mean, he cost $325 million, or Shohei Ohtani, but some of these other guys are, I mean, the Padres, they signed a couple Japanese pitchers, a Japanese pitcher and a Korean pitcher or KBO pitcher. And you know what? They didn't sign up to too much. So they were able to kill two birds with one stone, build their rotation, and, at the same time, keep their keep their payroll down, because we all know about the payroll situation. We all know about the $20 million that they have left, according to Bob Nightingale, that they have about 6 players to spend it on. But that's what we're seeing a lot now. And the Cubs, I got to say, for some reason, the Cubs are just like, they are a destination for free agents. And I don't really get it, because the Cubs have been a mediocre team for a little bit. I know they won the World Series in 2016, but before that they were awful. And after that they were kind of bad. But I don't understand why all these big name players are going to the Cubs. I really don't. I don't get it. I think the Cubs they're maybe not Dodgers light, but they do spend a lot of money, and you kind of scratch your head like, man, why are they spending all of this money? And I don't really understand the draw. I mean, Chicago's a cool city. Wrigley Field's a cool city. But again, you're playing in that disgusting heat that is Chicago. And I remember reading an article about Seiya Suzuki. Apparently, the Cubs, he asked about the weather. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe it is true because it came from a pretty reputable source. But he was asking the Cubs about the weather. And they told him, oh, it's great. It gets, hot in the summers and it's kind of cold in the winter. Well, I remember the game last year when the Padres were in Chicago, and it was freezing, and they were all wearing like long sleeve shirts and flannels and all that under their uniforms. So I don't know. The weather seems like it's bad. Cubs haven't been very good. They do have a new manager. They do have a pretty rich history, but I don't know. So that's where Shota Imanaga went. He signed with the Cubs. And then the third story of the day, Michigan wins the national championship. And I think it's a big deal because, it's a new team. It's not the Alabama. It's not the Georgia. It's not the LSU. It's a new team. But Michigan winning the national championship has definitely opened up a lot of different angles and avenues for what's going to happen with Jim Harbaugh after, when he sits down with the University of Michigan, or when he sits down with an NFL franchise and tries to become a head coach. I remember last year, I think it was, right before the season with Michigan, he was interviewed, or actually it wasn't last season. It was before Kevin O'Connell was hired, but to coach the Vikings. But Jim Harbaugh did get an interview and he wasn't ready then. He's just looking for the right opportunity. And as someone who's a 49ers fan, I know that Jim Harbaugh is a pretty darn good coach, but I also know that he rubs people the wrong way and he butts heads a lot. And that doesn't necessarily always work in a professional sports organization. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Jim Harbaugh. I was even reading rumors that Michigan was going to offer him $125 million over like 5 years or something like that. So $25 million a year. I'm sorry. No coach is worth that. I know people are going to disagree with me, but that is a lot of money for a coach that has been suspended twice. And I'm not flip-flopping. I saw the chat earlier. People were saying that I was flip-flopping. I wasn't flip-flopping about Jim Harbaugh. I have the same opinion on him, and it's always going to be that way. I didn't really think his cheating ways were that big of a deal, to be honest. I don't know. I guess we don't know the actual full extent of what he did, but at the same time, getting suspended twice in one season, in a season that that they win the national championship, is kind of opens your eyes to things a little bit. It kind of makes you think a little bit about whether or not Jim Harbaugh is the guy who can lead an NFL team with this under him. But the Chargers are definitely in the mix. We saw that earlier. We talked about the odds of Jim Harbaugh being the coach of some of the teams, what team he's going to coach next season. And the Chargers are number one for him, minus 220. So, I mean, he's the heavy favorite right now, according to the sports books. And do I think that would be a good move for the Chargers? I just don't see him fitting with Dean Spanos, unless Dean Spanos puts his hands in the air and just says, you take the team, Jim. I just don't see it being a fit. I really, really don't see it being a fit, actually. All right, those are the top 3 news stories of the day. I'm Matt Skraby. This is the Skraby Show. And, when we get back, we've been talking about it a little bit all week, but Kansas City is going to be really cold for the game between the Dolphins and the Chiefs. And I just got an alert on my phone for how cold it's going to be. So we're going to talk about that. Also, an MLB.com article is titled this: MLB's best player may not be who you think. So we'll go over that and see if any Padres are on that list. But thanks for being with me. If you want to watch the show, it's on YouTube. Just type in 97.3 The Fan. You can watch it live there. You can watch it on Facebook, the 97.3 The Fan page. Also, X 97.3 The Fan SD. It's up on there as well. So, Kansas City weather and MLB's best player may not be who you think when we get back on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan.
You can always be the first to know when the Padres make a trade by receiving push
The YouTube chat is getting crazy. Definitely getting crazy. If you want to join us on YouTube, we built a kind of a small little community. I know that the morning show started the video thing a long time ago. They definitely have a big community on their chat, but the community is growing on the chat between Glenn and Chris and now the Skraby Show. So again, YouTube 97.3 The Fan if you want to watch the show. And I'm getting some questions in there. I'm going to have to build in, I think, a chat question segment because there's so many comments right now. I have to go back and forth during the breaks to find them, but I think I need to definitely get a chat segment at some point here in the near future. Also, I'm going to get some different music. I'm going to get some opens. I'm going to get sounders, all this stuff. Like I said yesterday, we're just going to flow into this nice and easy. And all of that is going to be built as we go. All right. So I talked about Kansas City and the Chiefs are taking on the Dolphins here on Saturday night. And I got to tell you, if it wasn't the Dolphins, I mean, every single team, even the Chiefs are going to struggle with this. But I just got an alert on my phone saying that the high is supposed to be around 0 degrees on Saturday night with a low of 9 below zero and a wind chill or winds of 10 to 15 miles an hour. And it's going to feel like it's in the negative 30s, it's saying, which is ridiculous. Now, I've only been in that one time. I think I said it on the show earlier. It was Minnesota when I went to the Super Bowl and we went outside and started walking around. And it was 0 degrees or whatever. But really, in the first 30 seconds of me being outside, I was miserable. It was brutal. And it was a strong wind. Like, you don't know what cold is until you are in a situation like that. So I don't even really know how these guys play football in that weather. And I know that the football itself has to be kept in heaters because the ball can freeze so easily. But, it does make for good watching, though. I'm a big fan of weather games in the NFL, and this one's going to be a crazy weather game because it's going to be so cold. And on another note, I didn't really know that Kansas City got so cold. It seems like every year they play a playoff game in Kansas City, it's freezing. It's like, come on, like, I don't understand how Kansas City has an open stadium and it gets like 0 degrees all the time. Every single playoff season it comes around, Kansas City's freezing. So there's your latest weather update in Kansas City. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now, I was talking also about this MLB.com article about the MLB's best player may not be who you think. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Of course, I click on these articles to see if there's any Padres on the list. And so I looked through, and they were saying that the last time that they did this in 2020, Mike Trout was the best player in baseball. Well, we all know that's not true anymore because there's many other players that have had much bigger seasons than he did, namely Shohei Ohtani. He's had some pretty incredible seasons. So they went through, they did this by WAR, and they put Ohtani, if you give in 2023, actually, I'm sorry. If you look at the last two seasons and you give 2023 2/3 of the weight, Ohtani is up on top with a 9.8 WAR. Then you have Mookie Betts 7.6 WAR, Marcus Semien 6.8 WAR. But if you take away what Ohtani can do pitching, it seriously impacts his WAR. He can't get above a certain number in WAR because there's no defensive stats. So in 2024, if you are predicting it, Shohei Ohtani is only going to have 6.5 WAR because and this is all predictions, but he's going to have a 6.5 WAR because he's not able to play defense at all. And so I found that really interesting that he loses that much of his value just when he goes from being a pitcher and a hitter to just a hitter, just a DH. So they don't have Ohtani as the best player in baseball right now. They don't even have a Padre on the list, which does irk me a little bit. If anybody could be on the list here with the Padres, it would be Fernando Tatis Jr. I would think that he would get in there a little bit. Well, I am fibbing. Well, no, this is a 2024 list. I'm sorry. Soto is on the list. He's at 6.2 WAR, so he's not going to be on the Padres. But the Padres, they have great players, but Apparently, they're not great enough to be in the running for the best player in Major League Baseball, but they name Ronald Acuna Jr. as the number one player in baseball for 2024 using projections. And up second would be Mookie Betts. So if you're looking for fantasy baseball, choose Ronald Acuna Jr., who helped me win a fantasy baseball title, or Mookie Betts, who I did not have on my team because I didn't want to deal with Mookie Betts all the time. And, I don't really these lists are always fun and everything, but we've talked about WAR before, and WAR doesn't really, I don't think, gives the whole story, because there's many other metrics that we can judge players by. But in this article, Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to be the 2024 best player in baseball. Now, Shohei Ohtani, like I said, he loses a bunch of WAR when he doesn't play defense, so he can be in the 9 to 10 WAR range as a DH next year. But 6 to 7, or he's not going to be that high. 6 to 7 WAR is about as high as a player can get for hitting only. So you're not going to see him. You're not going to see him at the top of the WAR charts this year. All right, I'm tired of talking about WAR, to be honest. I thought that was an article that I could break down on the air, and it was a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be, but I think we did it. And we came out of it thinking there's no Padres on the list. No Padres at all, which is a bummer. Now, I realized that when I created the live show this morning, I titled the live show, Bring Back Blake Snell for Whatever It Takes, ? And so the reason I said that is because there was an article floating around today, and it had the Padres in it, and it had the Padres, it had the opinion of, now that everybody that they've been in on in free agency, or a lot of the players that are being scooped up in free agency, they're saying they need to go after Blake Snell, and they need to go after Blake Snell now and give him what he wants. Now, we don't know if Blake Snell is really a good option for the deferral. Now that everybody's talking about deferral, like, I don't know that sometimes players want a deferral, because we talked about it with Shohei Ohtani. His money in 10, 15 years may not be as valuable as it is now, or I'm not an economist, but I think that's how it goes. So some players want their money now, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a team would love to have Blake Snell do some sort of layaway program with his salary. But he's also, again, going to cost a ton of money. And I just don't know that the Padres can do that right now, unless there's some deferrals. Now that deferrals is the most popular thing, or at least for the Dodgers, it's the most popular thing, I think teams need to start asking this every time they sign a player. Do you want us to pay you $1 million in 2035? Okay, yeah, we'll pay you $1 million from 2035 to 2039. You have $4 million spread out over those 4 years, whatever. And, that sounds like a pretty good deal. If the company came to me right now and said, hey, we're going to pay you this amount of money later on, but we're not going to pay you as much now, I think I might take it, because it's always nice it's like, I guess that would be like finding a $20 bill in your pocket when you're going to do laundry or something. Like, you go and you're checking your pockets, and all of a sudden you didn't realize you had a $20 bill in your pocket, and you're like pumped. That could be like what the player feels like in 2035 or whatever. They wake up on January 1st, 2035, and they're $1 million richer. Their team is going to pay them. Bobby Bonilla did it right. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, and he's really the guy who not started it all. I can't say started it all, but he's most well known for doing this deferral thing. But again, if we're talking about the deferrals, I know it is allowed by baseball. I'm not saying the Dodgers are doing anything wrong. What I'm saying is the spirit of the rule is not to put your entire roster on deferral programs, because that's not what the rule was created for. I actually don't know what the rule was created for, but to put $680 million in deferrals is a little ridiculous. And again, they did it within the rules. I don't want to be accused of being a complainer, because I'm not really a complainer, but this deferral thing has upended what free agency has been all about this offseason, because over $1 billion spent in Dodgers free agents. It's just crazy. And the Padres, they're still working their way to a full roster. And after talking to Michael King today on Gwen and Chris, go to 973thefansd.com and check that out. But after talking to Michael King today, I was pretty impressed by him. I think he was very prepared, and I think that he's going to be a great piece to the rotation. And I'll let you guys in on a little bit of something. Normally, we don't get players that want to know questions that we're asking. I mean, but Michael King did. He asked for a few questions, and that's totally fine because that happens all the time. It's not like one person has asked for pre thought out questions, and that's not a big deal to me at all, but that just tells me who he is and what kind of guy he is. He took the interview seriously enough that he wanted to know what we were interested in. So that does tell me about his preparation, because if you're going to be asking for questions beforehand, definitely someone who's going to be ready when it's game day, and someone who's ready for ready for whatever's thrown at him. So love Michael King, love that interview. Again, go back and listen to it at 973thefansd.com. Let's check the chat real quick. Diesel says, I hope California taxes Shohei Ohtani. Well, the thing is that if Shohei Ohtani moves out of California before he receives that money, I guess he doesn't have to be taxed on this. I might not be 100% correct on that because I'm not a tax lawyer or anything like that. But I believe that's what I've heard, is that he can leave the state and then he ends up, getting that money at a different tax rate or whatever. But I kind of hope he stays in California. It's taxed, because then it can go back into our roads and into our schools and into all that good stuff. But I have a feeling he's going to leave California before he's taxed on all of that money, because that is a ton of money that he's being taxed on. And if I'm Shohei Ohtani, I'm leaving the state of California too. I'm going to like Arizona or something, so it's tax free. More chat questions. How many other interviews are pre-questioned? I wouldn't say it's pre-questioned. It was just, what is the gist of the conversation that you're looking for? And how many other interviews? I would say we get maybe one or two every couple weeks that want to know questions. It's not an uncommon thing whatsoever. It's not an uncommon thing whatsoever. Like, I get it all the time, and I send questions out all the time. But what I do notice about those people who are asking for questions ahead of time is that they have some of the best interviews, because they're ready for things. They are ready for they're ready for the questions that are going to come out of left field, because they kind of know what they're getting into. And I appreciate that. Again, I'm not trying to say that I'm not trying to say anything about Michael King. In fact, I'm trying to say that I really, really appreciate that he asked for questions before. Again, tells me a lot about who he is as a person. Let's see. Joseph says on the chat, would you rather go all in on Snell or Cody Bellinger? I'm ready. That's a really tough question, Joseph, because I've talked about Blake Snell before and how I'm not really 100% sure what he's going to be bringing going forward in his career. Obviously, he's going to be a good pitcher, but is he going to be the Snellzilla, the Sizilla that we saw this year? I don't know, and I don't think so. I don't think he could pitch up to that level again, just because it was such a crazy high level that he was pitching at. Walking as many guys as he did and not giving up runs is just incredible. It's almost as incredible as how bad the Padres were with runners in scoring position this year. Like, it's mind-boggling to think about that he walked over 100 batters and it didn't really affect him. He still won the Cy Young with the most walks. It's pretty crazy. And again, pretty crazy that the Padres and what they did with runners in scoring position, and also what they did in one-run games, and also what they did in extra inning games. I fully think this is going to turn around for the Padres coming up here this year in 2024. It doesn't seem, it's not something that they can have happen 2 years in a row. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe that can happen. Bad luck does not follow teams like that for years and years and years. Look at the Astros. They won the World Series even after they cheated. So there you go. All right. Thanks again for listening to the Skraby Show. I went a little too far on that one, but when we get back, I'm going to have my daily gripe of the day. That is something that we're going to do at the end, but we're also going to talk about the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Yes, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on the Fan.
What we don't want to happen is, hey guys, sorry, we couldn't get you
Back here in the Odyssey Palace, 97.3 The Fan. This is the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chatting. All of that and all of the above. I want to direct your attention to 97.3 The Fan's X page, 97.3 The Fan SD, because Yuki Matsui spoke to the media today, being introduced by the Padres, and he had a Zoom. So Adam put up some videos from his press conference that they were doing. And here's a little highlight from our guy, Sammy Lev, who was in on that meeting. He said, Yuki Matsui, quote, "I'd say that Yu Darvish being on the team, that was a big part of my decision of coming to the Padres. So Yu Darvish paying huge dividends and trying to get Yuki Matsui over here. So that's a good thing. Also, Matsui and Darvish were teammates in the WBC last year. He called Darvish a great person and very respectable both in baseball and as a human being. And those are the guys that I want on my team. Respectable humans in both baseball and as a human being. Yu Darvish definitely fits that mold. He seems like a very, very respectable guy, and it seems like he treats people like how he wants to be treated. But, I would say that Yuki Matsui knows that best, and he has nothing but glowing things to say about Yu Darvish. So go to 97.3 The Fan SD. You can see some of those videos of what he said. He talks about his role with the Padres. He also talks more about why he chose the Padres. So there's tons of good stuff on there on our X page right now. So one of the things you're going to get on the Skraby Show, we're going to talk about sports a lot. If sports is the hot topic of the day, we're going to talk about sports, but it's been a little bit of a slow day in the sports world. And I would like to start, like I teased before the break, with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Now, if you're looking for a job, this is actually not the first time I've brought up the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile on a show on 97.3 The Fan. This is the second time. But Oscar Mayer announced yesterday they are taking applications for the next class of hot doggers, which is a year-long opportunity to drive across the country in the iconic 27-foot-long Wienermobile as the brand's spokesperson. The average traveler of the hot dog mobile or the Wienermobile is 20,000 miles, visits at least 40 cities to host pop-up events, and also appear on local media, create TikTok and Instagram content. But they are going to pay you for this. You are going to get $35,600 if you are chose as a hot dogger for the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. So if you are unemployed, if you want to go and work with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, then you need to go to their website and apply, because they are looking for people right now. Honestly, driving around the country in a hot dog, going 20,000 miles for a full year, it actually kind of sounds fun to me. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind it because everybody's so friendly. Whenever you see the hot dog mobile driving around the freeways and stuff, you're always like, you always wave, you always honk. Everybody wants to take a picture with it. So I think that'd be kind of cool. But there you go. The Wienermobile is looking for a hot dogger, paying you $35,600 if you are hired for that. Also, Mike Francesa, if you're a fan of radio, you know about Mike Francesa because he's one of the sports radio legends. I mean, I may not be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Extra Sports 690 here in San Diego. Also, if it wasn't for Mike Francesa and Mike and the Mad Dog. Well, he is really, really upset that the Miami Dolphins and Kansas City Chiefs game is going to be exclusively streaming on Peacock. And he is just so upset about it. He said the word is the NFL got $110 million to stream this game from Peacock. They got $110 million to stream this one game exclusively on Peacock. That's it. Is this the way of the future? They're going to have a hard time doing it with playoff games because there's going to be a tremendous fallout from this, and there should be, because it is the utterly disgraceful, greedy reach by the NFL. Like they don't make enough money. Like their fans don't get into their pocket for jerseys, for all kinds of NFL merchandise, for tickets that are very expensive across the country. I don't agree with Mike Francesa often, but I do agree that the NFL has enough money and they're being really annoying with all the money that they're still trying to pull in. But I really am not mad about this Peacock game because I've asked a lot of people about Peacock, and if you're in the chat right now, please let me know if you have Peacock, because I've really already asked these people, and they said we already have it. We already have it through our phone plan, or we already have it through our cable plan. So it's not like a lot of these things are a lot of people are going to have to buy Peacock. Well, Chris did because he didn't have it with anything else, but I just don't see why there's so much pushback on it. Streaming is the way of the future. I'm telling you, I think we're going to probably, as much as I don't want this to happen, I think we're probably going to be paying for packages that allow us to watch Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, or, oh, dare I say it, even the Sunday football games. But that's a little bit a while off, just because like the NFL already has these contracts with these, Fox and CBS and NBC. But I mean, it's going to be a whole new world. And I understand why it's scary for some people, but I personally think streaming is a little bit better. Although the one thing you can't do streaming that I think is very, very annoying is you can't change the channel to go back quickly to another station, to another game or something like that. You have to stay on the streaming channel. So I'm looking at the chat right now. We got a lot of people that are already getting or already have Peacock. So one person said, where is it? Where did that go? R. Garcia said it'll be part of your phone plan soon. Louise said already have and love Peacock. Diesel said Peacock for EPL and that 70s show. Lori says we used to get free with Cox Cable, but now I have it with a monthly fee. That's a bummer. Brandon 619 says this is kind of interesting. I don't know if it's quite this, but he said cable is like the rotary phone, which I do enjoy myself a rotary phone every once in a while. I gotta say, a rotary phone is not bad. It's kind of cool to do a little thing where you have to like dial it. Actually, my sister bought a cabin, and they left all of the furniture in this cabin and all of the different trinkets around the cabin. And one of them is a rotary phone. And I definitely was playing with that rotary phone for a good long while because it's just cool. It's just cool. Some carriers offer streaming services as part of your plan. Oh, I see. So they're offering it as a part of your plan, but they're also going to probably charge you more money to use the phone, which means that in turn you are paying for the streaming service, which I am not a fan of. Not a fan of. I can't read your name, famous all day, I think. But they're asking anything on the Padres TV deal. Do we have one? Have you heard whispers? Could use the extra income. I don't know about the income part, but the TV deal, I'm in the dark as much as everybody else. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be similar to last year. I hope that it's going to be similar to last year because it wasn't too hard to find things. It wasn't too hard to get access to Padres games last year. So I don't mind having it. I don't mind having the games on streaming. Again, we're talking about streaming. And the Padres are kind of one of the first teams that are in on this streaming thing. I do think that teams are going to probably find that streaming is a little bit better than some of these regional sports networks. The money might not be there in the beginning, but when you are streaming, you could charge your fans, and that's exactly what the Padres do. And I don't think that. I know that there were some people that were pretty angry about having to pay to watch Padres games, but if I'm able to watch Padres games for less than $1 a game, then I think I'm going to be okay with that. Now, I already have it as a part of my plan, but it's something that I know people are concerned about. So we will be watching for the Padres TV deal and all of that news, but I gotta say, I am on the radio, and we broadcast Padres games. So you can listen to every single Padres game here on 97.3 The Fan with Tony and Jesse, and you should, because those guys are awesome. It's almost like a radio show during a baseball game. Seriously. Like they have different segments and talk, and they talk about certain sports things and all of that. So make sure you listen to your Padres baseball on the radio, 97.3 The Fan. I feel like I am running through things the last 2 days. Like this hour, it's too much. It's not too much. It's too little. I have so much to say, but I'm already running out of time, and we're already at the time for the daily gripe. And so the daily gripe is something I'm going to try to make it fun, but some days we're going to get a little bit more angry than others. But today, if you've listened to Gwen and Chris, you know that I have an issue with drivers out there. And I don't know if I'm just old now or if I'm noticing things more, but I feel like most drivers are one of the two extremes. They're driving too fast or they're driving way too slow. So the reason I thought about this on the way down from, I live in Carlsbad area, so I'm driving down here to Arrow Drive. It's a decent drive. I appreciate driving. I get to listen to the radio or podcasts, but I was following someone in the fast lane and I couldn't get out of the fast lane, but this person was going 50 miles an hour in the fast lane. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Get out of the fast lane. I'm not a big fan of that. Also, if you can't drive the speed limit, then what are you doing driving? I got many of these. I get behind people all the time who are going 10 miles an hour less than what the speed limit is. If you're afraid to go the speed limit, you should not be on the road. You don't need to be on the road because it's crazy to be holding everyone up. And then I'm not going to bring a bicyclist because that's my major hot button, but I like to share the road, but bicyclists don't like to share the road with us drivers. That is for sure. Maria is saying on the chat, most drivers are just annoying me, especially the ones that don't even use the blinker to change lanes and just cut you off. I agree with that too. I'm reading some more. Anthony, I don't care how fast you drive, just use your blinker. Okay, so the blinker is an issue here in this little segment that we're doing right now, the daily gripe. I don't really see blinkers I don't really see a blinker issue. I just see those people that go and they just crazily weave in and out of traffic as fast as they can. And it's just like, why do you got to put everybody's life on the line when you're driving? That does sound dramatic, but I don't know. It's not as dramatic as you may think it is. Yeah. M. McKee 23. The people that weave are the scariest. I agree. But people that drive slow also bother me. And people at night who are scared to drive at night. Why are you on the road if you don't like to drive at night? Just don't drive at night. You cannot go 30 miles an hour on the freeway because you're scared of the dark. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Sorry. I get a little angry. I'm telling you. I really do. Daily gripe is going to be a good thing for me. It's going to get things off my chest. I'm going to be able to not have to take these things home with me. And, it's, I'm going to try to not get so angry every single time. But it does get my blood going. I got to say, it really does get my blood going. Well, that is basically it for the Skraby Show. Let me go back to the chat real quick. Let's see. Anthony says, get out of the fast lane unless you're doing real crimes. Why are you doing real crimes in the fast lane? You shouldn't be doing real crimes at all on the road whatsoever. The dark is more scared of you than you are of it. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think the dark is... I think the dark is a very strange thing, and I'm not going to go into the dark right now. I mean, I'm really going in a weird direction when I'm talking about the dark. Scrapes preferred to stay another hour than drive in rush hour. No, I didn't. I'm here until 7. I also need apparently a heart monitor on the screen during the daily gripe. I could do that. I could definitely do that. But that's what we're going to be doing every day. Daily gripe. Every time I have a show, we'll be doing that. But again, I feel like I ran through this show. I hope you enjoyed the Skraby Show. I'll be back tomorrow with everyone starting at 6 p.m. I'll also be with Gwen and Chris from 2 to 6 p.m. So thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody who commented in the chat. And thank you to everybody who listened here on the radio to 97.3 The Fan all day. And thank you to Ben and Woods for promoting. Thank you to Annie and Elston for promoting the Skraby Show. Really appreciate everybody here on the station and everybody out there. I hope you all have a good night, and we'll talk tomorrow. 97.3 The Fan.
Quinn and Chris on the Fan.
Back at it again. Newly acquired pitcher Michael King joins us to talk a little Padre baseball and a fantabulous game show in the fold.
Listen to Quinn and Chris weekdays from 2 to 6 on 97.3 The Fan.
From college football to college hoops, I'm Joe Ostrowski here to help you beat the books with BetQL. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan finished the job and are college football's national champions. So now we shift our focus to college hoops and